Mounce, BBG, chapter 33, sentence 7. Tough one, I'm imagining, for some of you, but here's one I would tell you, if you know the passage, that could probably help you think through it. T, you can go with all sorts of things. You got a post-positive gar. This could be what or who, but in this case, start with a what for what is, and it gives it easier. And then hopefully you recognize the epsilon iota nu as being an infinitive ending. So, but this is from apon, which comes from Lego, right? So it's an aorist infinitive, which means to say. And then you have this phrase, the sins of you are forgiven, right? And I give you the verb there. So of you, the sins, you're going to go with, your sins. So your sins are forgiven. Then here you got to realize that that is not a rough breathing, but a smooth breathing mark. So you're going to go with or, and you have the same infinitive here, to say. Then you have an imperative. Hopefully recognize that as a present imperative from a gero, which is, I raise or I rise up or something like that, and we would say in English more probably something like get up, but you could go with rise up or get up, as a second singular imperative, present imperative, right? So get up, and hopefully recognize this is parapeteo, so it's just walk, right? So rise up and walk. Now, again, that's the tail end of a question. So, because he asked up here, what's easier, to say this or to say this? So then you have post-positive day, but in order to that, and then you have a data, which is one that could easily fool you because you might think that it comes from the aorist adon, but it doesn't. It actually comes from the aorist adane minus the augment, because this would be an eta with an iota subscript here, which, again, you might think it comes from herao, but it actually comes from oida. So this one, this one's just tough because it looks a lot like something else. But again, here, that it's subjunctive, that it's second plural, and, I'll just let you know, this one technically comes from oida, not herao, and the aorist form is actually adane with an eta and iota subscript. So that's why this looks like this in the beginning, with the subjunctive, elongated connecting vowel. So y'all might know in this case, again, because it's from oida. But in order that y'all might know that authority he has, the Son of Man, right? So going back, that the Son of Man has authority, and again, that tells you that that's your direct object because it's accusative, right? Upon the earth, that's easy enough. And then aphianai, hopefully you recognize this as being the same verb that you saw up here, right? So, but here the difference is you have an alpha iota, which hopefully you recognize as an infinitive ending. So to forgive, because remember this is they are forgiven. So here you have to forgive. To forgive what? Sins, accusative plural, right? Then he says to the paralytic, and then you have hopefully you recognize this again as coming from a gero, right? Except that this is a different stem, obviously. And not only that, it's a passive. So, you're either going to treat this as a passive or deponent, but from a gero, and it's an aorist, and in this case, a participle, because hopefully you recognize this ending as a, sorry about that, try it again. Hopefully you recognize this, thes, then, as being a passive participle ending. So you got a passive ending, and you got to, can I translate this as a passive participle, or do I do it as a deponent? But the idea is, from a gero, rising up, or after getting up, And then you have here, one that really might throw you, but again, hopefully, looking back over your imperative endings, you remember seeing this as an aorist, again, second singular ending, because he's still talking to the paralytic. So having gotten up, or after rising up, or after getting up, you could do any of those with Egerthes and be in decent shape. This one actually comes from Iro, and it's missing the iota, so that tells you that's the piece that should tell you as well that it's an aorist. But then with the Omicron nu, second singular aorist imperative ending, okay, so take as an aorist imperative, take of you the bed, so your bed, and then here's a typical second singular, go, like depart, right? And depart to the house of you, to your house. Okay? So in this one from hupago, but again, second singular, typical present imperative ending there. So back to the beginning, we'll walk all the way through. For what is easier to say, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up and walk, question mark. But in order that you might know that the Son of Man has authority upon the earth to forgive sins, then he says to the paralytic, having risen up, or after getting up, take your bed and depart to your house.